Patterson University Television.
Welcome back to the desk. There's a lot to discuss when it comes to Pioneer football, but first, Justin had the chance to speak with former Pioneer volleyball star Juliana Ginefra.
Thank you, Juliana, for joining us today.
And thank you so much for having me.
Now, you played 4 years here. It's been a really productive 4 years, so let's take a look at how you played so far in your 4 years. So you played 93 matches since you got here freshman year. In those 93 matches, you played 240 sets. The record of the team since you've gotten here is 64-45 with some playoff appearances as well. And this year, in 2017, you finished with a record of 16-10. Now, it's a really productive 4 years, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun, but it's all over now. So tell me how you feel now that your 4 years have come to a close.
Now that my 4 years are done, it's definitely a little bit depressing because that was such a strong bond and my favorite thing to do, like, all throughout the year. So it's tough knowing that I can't go back to it.
Right.
But I'm extremely happy with the way that everything went. I mean, I made great relationships with my coaches, my teammates. I have gained so many skills and just improved so much that it makes me confident in how I played here. So it was definitely worth it.
No doubt. You're a very good player, to say the least. Your 2016 and 2017 all NJAC honorable mention. Maybe you can pick up another award this year. And with that, you're the only senior this year. So senior day was more like Jules Day. So tell me how that felt.
It was, again, difficult to go into because I knew what I was facing. But it made me feel very special because they showed me the impact that I had on them. And it made me feel like I really did do a lot in my 4 years there. So it was comforting and just a great feeling all around.
Yeah, that's awesome. You've done a lot in your 4 years, but now that you're done playing volleyball here at William-Patterson, do you think there's a future in volleyball for you, whether it's playing more after, whether it be summer leagues or maybe coaching or anything like that?
If I can get into coaching, I definitely would, but my main priority, honestly, is playing because it's never something that I want to stop.
Right.
So I think this time off is a good rest for my body after like the 4 years of a beating, but I definitely want to continue playing, whether it's in intramural or it's just a league outside of college, anything to keep on moving.
For sure. You played a lot of games here, like I said, once again, in your career here at William-Patterson. Is there any game that stuck out to you this season the most?
We had a really tight game against, I believe it was Rutgers Newark.
Right.
And it was just a crazy game. It was a crucial game to us in our season, and it was a conference game. So we've struggled against them in the past, but being that it was such a tight game and us coming out on top and just having great saves and just like honestly monumental plays and everything like that, that was a game that had like a big impact on me and the entire team in general. So.
Right. And now that you're done, do you have any last words of advice now that you're done for any of your remaining teammates here at William-Patterson?
Give it your all because it's going to come to an end and it comes a lot quicker than you expect it to, and it sucks, but it's worth it, and just go all out. That's all you can do.
All right. Thank you, Juliana, for joining us. Your 4 years of William-Patterson volleyball are done, and I'm sure we'll see you around campus.
The Pioneers look to get their first win on senior day against Southern Virginia University, but ultimately remain winless after a 16-6 loss to the Knights. As we take a look at the team's stats from last Saturday, it was another upsetting game for the Pioneers. Pioneers only having -7 rushing yards in the game as the Knights had a staggering 240. Positive for the Pioneers, they had 231 passing yards and held the Knights to 20 passing yards. But both teams with 2 turnovers, and the most important stat of them all, the final score. Knights 16, Pioneers 6. William-Patterson takes another loss. Joe, we'll start with you. What did you see from the Pioneers in their latest loss?
Well, obviously the biggest thing was that it was one of the most unbalanced games that I've ever seen in my entire life between the pass and the rushing offense. But I'll give $100 to anybody on this panel that can explain this move. 36 seconds on the clock, 1 timeout. They spiked the ball on 3rd down to make it 4th down with 1 timeout left. Can anybody explain that? Is there anybody that can?
I'm not taking that bet.
No. Okay, so in Pioneer form after that, the field goal gets blocked, returned to the house by Southern Virginia, 16-0 at the half. It's terrible play calling.
Let's get a little positive here. They've had a really rough year. But you know who hasn't had a rough year? The linebacking core. Corey Anthony, Charles Faulkner, Omar Mahmoud have been stellar. They're leaders in the defense. Mahmoud, by the way, 2nd most tackles in all of college football this year with 24 in a single game. That's pretty impressive.
Justin?
The defense is definitely the strong suit of this team. Even though they gave up 16 points, only 10 of them came from the defense because the blocked field goal was returned for a touchdown. So even though it was a close game, the defense still kept close.
Justin?
For the first time, we saw Cornelius Kinchin out there for the whole game. I think that had to throw a wrench in the offense a little bit because, again, the same theme as it's been the last few years has been a quarterback carousel. So we've seen Kinchin, we've seen Waldron, we've seen Yaros all this year. We expected to see Waldron, it was senior day, but Cornelius Kinchin got the start, and he did pretty solid, but you could just tell some things just weren't clicking right when he was out there. So I think that's a big reason why they struggle. And like Justin said, the defense did their job. They only allowed 10 points. You got to put more points on the board, though. It's just as simple as that.
Justin, we'll keep it with you. One game left on the season against Montclair State. What can you take away from this season from the Pioneers with one game remaining?
Definitely a rough year, to say the least. I can't really put it any other way than that. Being 0-9 this year, a win tomorrow looks glim. They beat them last year, but that was the first time in over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe they could do it again. Of course, we want them to do it again. But there's a lot of youth on this team. I can't say the coaching staff is inexperienced, but there is a lot of new guys. You're only losing 8 seniors this year. Some of those guys didn't really get a lot of minutes in the rotation on the field. So a lot of youth got experience this year, and there's going to be a lot more experienced players on the field next year. So you can only hope for next year that the players just come back and just play better.
Justin, I like what you said about the youth. Floor admitted when I talked to him a few weeks ago, there's a lot of young guys playing now. The season's lost, just play the young guys, see what they have for the future. But some changes got to be made. I don't know where it's going to start at the coaching level, higher up. It's pathetic. They're one of the worst teams in the nation. I feel bad for the guys because they do work hard. They go practice as hard as anyone else, and you can see the disappointment on their face when I talk to them after the games. So some changes got to be made to get this team back on track.
But that's definitely the thing. Like, we saw 4 quarterbacks this year. They just couldn't make up their mind who was going to be the starter. So if they take time this offseason, figure out who's going to be the starter, whether it be Mike Yaros or Cornelius Kinchin, just figure out who it is and just let them get the start against Montclair and just go into the next season hoping for the best.
Joe?
You know, this team has hit rock bottom now, which is a lot saying for a team that hasn't been over 500 in over a decade. This is rock bottom. No time during Jerry Floor's tenure here as a William Patterson head coach has he never won a game. This is going to be the first year that he does not win a game as a Pioneer head coach, and we might see a whole new regime next year coming into the season because obviously Jerry Floor can't get things done.
Now, Justin mentioned a committee at quarterback. How do you guys feel about the quarterback committee? Honestly, you should have committees maybe at the running back position, even the wide receiver position. Justin, we'll start with you. Do they need to name a starter? Is that where you start with for changes next year?
I think so, because think about it this way. Those quarterbacks, from what I'm seeing from the sidelines, again, I'm not a part of the coaching staff. I'm not on the field, so I'm not going to make any, bold assumptions here. But when you're out there playing, when you know if you make 1 or 2 mistakes, you're getting pulled out, you're playing tight. You're not playing loose. You're not playing as yourself because you're too worried about not making mistakes so you can stay on the field. So if one interception happens, you're like, oh man, I'm about to come out, and the next guy comes on. You can't establish rhythm having quarterbacks coming in and out like that.
That's also a big knock on the confidence of a quarterback to know that they don't have the flexibility to make a mistake and be able to learn from their mistakes because they know there's no learning task. You're just pulled out right away. Justin, we'll keep it with you. On a positive note of the season, who's been your MVP player so far?
I'll keep it in the quarterback conversation. For me, it's James Waldron. He's had some decent play on the field, but I think the biggest thing for him is keeping composed off the field. He started playing punter this year, and as far as he's been here, he's been pulled in and out of the starting quarterback job nonstop. Isaiah Diaz-Mays was transferred here, started over him. James Waldron got it back. This year, James Waldron was starting, and he got mixed up with Yaros and Kinchin and stuff like that. So he's been in and out of the lineup his whole 4 years here. So not only his on-the-field performance, he's, 9th in Pioneer history in passing touchdowns.
And 10th in total offensive yards.
10th in total offensive yards. So you got to give him a lot of credit. He fought through his 4 years, and he stayed loyal, and he just did whatever he could to make his team better. So I got to give him a ton of respect for that.
Justin?
For me, it's definitely got to be linebacker Charles Faulkner. Even though the defense was put in numerous times just horrible situations of either being in their own red zone, he led the team in total tackles, and he helped anchor what was a struggling defense at first to at least get him to a solid unit.
I'm going to get a little sentimental here. Almost every senior on this team is my MVP. It's such a rough year. Really, to see these guys go out and work as hard as they did all year, I can't say enough about the character of these players. It really showed how good their character is.
Joe?
I'm going to have to go with Siraj Abdul-Malik. He's the freshman, not a big guy, about 5'7", 160 pounds, but he had 218 receiving yards this year, a touchdown, and he's going to be a big part next year with Tyler Vivian leaving.
Sounds awesome. The Pioneers have one last chance to get a win, this time against Montclair State Redhawks. They got a big win against them last year, so hopefully they can do it again. That's all we have for William Patterson football this year, but don't go anywhere because up next, the soccer crew is back for some playoff action.